Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to go over the 2 ways to change color for your Amigurumi plushie. The first way is for detailing, such as adding bobas to this milk tea or decorative stripes on the back of this dinosaur. The second way is for when you want to create seamless stripes that wrap around an entire round of your plushie, such as when you're adding stripes to a bee. In this tutorial, I'm going to be using 2 colors of number 4 worsted weight yarn, a size 3.5mm hook, and some fabric scissors. I will link some of these materials down below, but again, you can use whatever you already have on hand. I will also be using US terms in this tutorial. So let's get started. Here's the first way to change color. For changing color, we're always going to start with a stitch before the stitch that you actually want to see the color change. So we're going to start the stitch just like normal, like how we normally start a single crochet. But instead of yarning over with the same color yarn, we're going to take our new color instead and use that to yarn over and finish our stitch. Now we have to secure the 2 yarn colors together. I usually do this by just tying the 2 yarn ends together a few times, similar to how you would tie the beginning of a shoelace, but over and over again. And because we're making a plushie and the yarn ends will be hidden inside of the plushie, we don't have to worry about hiding the yarn ends. We can just leave it like that. When we're done tying it together, we can cut off the excess yarn from the original color. And now that you're done with that, you're free to continue making your single crochets with a new color just as usual. As you can see, this is the first stitch with the new color, which is why we prep the color change in the stitch before the one we actually want to see the change of color. I can now continue to make single crochets down the round just like I normally would, but now with a new color. And that's how you make a color change with method 1. So while this first method is great for adding details, we wouldn't want to use this method if we're trying to create a stripe look that goes all the way around the plushie. If we did use this method and we were making something like a bee, it would look like this. As you can see, the color change is super obvious, the stripes don't even connect to each other, so we don't want it to look like this. Instead, we want to go for a more seamless stripe look, and that brings us to method 2. So for the second method, we're going to start in the same way as the first method. We're going to start with a stitch before the one we want to see the color change and start by doing our single crochet just like normal, but then we're going to yarn over with our new color. After that, just like what we did with the first method, we're going to secure our yarn colors together by tying the yarn ends together a few times. And then when we're done, we can cut off the yarn from our original color. So now is when it gets a little bit different from the first method. So for the second method, we're going to go into the next stitch, but instead of just going on and making our single crochets, we're going to instead make a slip stitch. So in case you're unfamiliar, to do a slip stitch, you would start just like a single crochet and pull that yarn underneath that stitch. But instead of yarning over, you would just pull that same yarn again for the loop on your hook. Make sure to pull it tight, and then we're going to do a chain. To do a chain, you're just going to take the working yarn and pull it through the loop on your hook. This will count as our first stitch in this round. After this, we can go into our second stitch and just make our single crochets just like we normally do all the way around. But we are not quite done yet, so I will meet you at the end of this round. So now that we made it all the way around and we're ready to start on our next round, we're going to look for the first 2 stitches in the previous round. We're going to completely skip that first stitch and go straight into the second stitch and continue crocheting just like usual. The only difference in this round versus doing any other normal round is that we're just skipping the first stitch. And the reason why we do that is because when we did our color change, we did a slip stitch and then a chain, which gave us an extra stitch. So if you do the second method, what you'll end up with is something like this. As you can see, compared to the first one that we did, the second one has a lot less obvious of a color change, a lot smoother stripes, and the stripes are actually connected to each other. And that's how you make a color change with both methods. I really hope this helps, and if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I appreciate you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and follow my other socials.